This is Top Accolade Global News Update. I am Abiodun Mohammed. Prosecutors charged an 84-year-old white Kansas City man with 2 felonies on Monday in the shooting of a black teenager who was wounded after walking up to the wrong house when going to pick up his younger twin brothers. Andrew Lester was charged with first-degree assault, which could bring a sentence of life in prison and armed criminal action for shooting Ralph Yao, aged 16, on the doorstep of his suburban home around 10 p.m. last Thursday, the prosecutor said. Lester fired 2 shots through a glass door from a .32 caliber revolver, the prosecutor said. Yao, who was struck in the head and unharmed, did not cross the threshold, Thompson said, adding it did not appear any words were exchanged in the encounter, but Yao told police in an interview at the hospital where he was treated that the man told him, in quote, "Don't come around here." Local media reported, citing court documents, the teen was recovering at home on Monday, his family said. In addition to facing life in prison, should he be found guilty of the assault charge, he could be sentenced to up to 15 years of criminal action, the prosecutor said. 8 crimes, which were not filed, carry lesser penalties in Missouri, he added. An arrest warrant had been issued for Lester with bond set at $200,000, but as of 5 p.m. CDT, he was not in custody, the prosecutor said. The United States spoke to rival Sudanese commanders who have been waging fierce battles in Khartoum and beyond for a 4th day, telling them to stop fighting and to protect civilians and others after a U.S. diplomatic convoy came under fire. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken held separate calls with the Army Chief and head of the Paramilitary Rapid Response Forces (RSF), whose power struggle has killed at least 185 people and derailed an internationally backed deal for a shift to civilian government after decades of autocracy and military rule. Gunfire echoed across Sudan's capital for a 4th day on Tuesday, accompanied by the sound of warplanes and explosions, newsmen gathered. Residents in Khartoum's twin city of Omdurman, on the other side of the Nile, also reported airstrikes that shook buildings and anti-aircraft fire. Blinken said a U.S. diplomatic convoy came under fire on Monday in an apparent attack by fighters associated with the RSF, adding that all those in the convoy were safe. He called the incident reckless and said any attacks or threats to U.S. diplomats were unacceptable. Blinken, speaking in Japan, said he had telephoned both RSF leader General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, known as Emeti, and Sudan's Army Chief General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, appealing for a 24-hour ceasefire to allow the Sudanese to be safely reunited with families and to provide them with relief. Fighting between Sudan's army and the RSF that erupted on Saturday has killed at least 185 people and injured more than 1,800, UN envoy Volker Perthes said on Monday. Russian President Vladimir Putin has met his commanders in 2 regions of Ukraine that Moscow claims to have annexed, while Russian forces stepped up heavy artillery bombardment and airstrikes on the devastated eastern Ukrainian city of Bakhmut. The Kremlin said Putin had attended a military command meeting in Ukraine's southern Kherson region and visited a National Guard headquarters in eastern Luhansk. He did not say when the visit took place. Putin heard reports from commanders of the airborne forces and the Dnieper Army Group, as well as other senior officers who briefed him on the situation in the Kherson and Zaporizhia regions in the south. In quote, "It is important for me to hear your opinion on how the situation is developing, to listen to you, to exchange information," Putin, aged 70, told the commanders. Kherson, Zaporizhia, Luhansk, and Donetsk are the 4 regions that Putin proclaimed annexed last September, following what Kiev and its western allies said were sham referendums. Russian forces only partly control the 4 regions. Russian troops retreated from Kherson City, the regional capital, last November and have been reinforcing their positions on the opposite bank of the Dnipro River in anticipation of a Ukrainian counteroffensive. The foreign ministers of G7 have pledged to intensify sanctions against Russia over its war in Ukraine and criticized China for its actions in the Taiwan Strait and disputed South China Sea, urging Beijing, in quote, to act as a responsible member of the international community. The comment, issued on Tuesday, marked the conclusion of a 3-day meeting in the Japanese resort town of Karuizawa. The G7 communique also criticized North Korea over its nuclear and ballistic missile program, expressed concern over the violence in Sudan and Myanmar, and called on the Taliban to reverse its ban on women working for non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and the United Nations. The document was prepared as a template for global leaders to use at the G7 summit that will be held in Hiroshima, Japan next month, and also included language about Iran, nuclear proliferation, and other grave threats. Two crises stood out: Russia's invasion of Ukraine and China's increasing assertiveness against military maneuvers around Taiwan, the self-governing democracy that Beijing claims as its own. But it was Russia's invasion of Ukraine that was the focus of the summit. The group, which comprises the United States, Japan, Germany, the United Kingdom, France, Italy, and Canada, said in quotes, "There can be no impunity for war crimes and other atrocities such as Russia's attacks against civilians and critical civilian infrastructure." China's economy grew by 4.5% year-on-year in the first quarter of 2023, signaling that the world's second-largest economy is firmly on the path to recovery after the end of Beijing's strict zero-COVID policies. The growth figure falls slightly short of Beijing's 5% growth target for 2023, set at the National People's Congress meeting in March, but is still ahead of market expectations. Other official economic data released on Tuesday reinforced signs of an upward trend in the economy. Retail sales grew by 10.6% year-on-year, according to data from the National Bureau of Statistics, while value-added service output rose by 5.4%. Value-added industrial production rose by 3% year-on-year, although the Purchasing Managers Index, a measure of China's manufacturing trends, dropped slightly to 51.9 from 52.6 in February. Any reading above 50 is considered an expansion. Alicia Garcia Herrero, the chief economist for the Asia-Pacific at Natixis, said the data was quite good, but that official figures may paint a slightly rosier picture than the reality on the ground, because the benchmark is March 2022, when economic activity across China was muted due to lockdowns. China's economy grew by just 3% last year, the second lowest rate since 1976, amid strict pandemic measures, including border closures, mass testing, and months-long lockdowns in big cities such as the financial powerhouse of Shanghai. That is the size of top accolade global news update. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Tuesday!